Welcome, everyone. What an opportunity and celebration this is. Welcome to the, I guess, final event for the year of Ubuntu. We are now truly a movement, throughout the number of months this past year, we've had folks from all over the world joining into the conversation, celebrating Ubuntu and bringing it out into the world. Welcome also to those that are streaming live on Facebook. Welcome for being here and thank you for your time. What we are going to be having today is truly a celebration and recognizing that we are called for such a moment. And I would like to, really ground our space and allow everyone to have an opportunity to just have a moment of silence to honor the fact that we are here, a moment of silence to honor those that cannot be here, a moment of silence to honor the joy that is brewing within us in a world that is so full of fear and so much, more anguish, in honor to just be in community. I am because you are. You can take a deep breath in, deep breath out. Just letting go of everything that you want to be able to let go of. Another deep breath in to let in the beautiful oxygen, but all the wonderful things that you want for your life. Deep breath out. And slowly coming back into the space where you are able to be in community, recognizing that this community is not the same unless you are fully present. This community is calling for you to be here authentically as you are, because you are a light and you are blessing this space. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to breathe together. Thank you for the opportunity on this very remarkable and blessed Sunday, wherever you are in the world, morning, afternoon, evening. Thank you for being here. We're saying it is a celebration because we realize that it takes, a lot of coordination, a lot of time, a lot of dedication to contribute to what a movement would be. But we also realize that the spirit of Ubuntu that has been around for centuries way before us is continuing through us into next generations and those who are to come. And what an honor to be able to participate in one form or another in a way that actually allows us to recognize that we are not alone, that we are part of a much larger purpose in a much larger, life experience. Welcome, everybody. My name is Dr. Moleen Madziva. I am based in Southern California. I actually work as a trained engineer and working in clinical research in artificial intelligence. I actually am, co-hosting this event with some powerful women, Chenesai Mangoma, who is based out of Zimbabwe, a trained lawyer, and really has been, a zone of genius in so many areas when it comes to leadership and working together. And the remarkable, Honorable Violeta Bulca out of Slovenia, who has in her own right has been, charting the path for what an eco-civilization might be. And we have our fellow friends who have actually come together to join us as well. Thomas Legrand out of France, Stephen Muraga out of Zimbabwe, and we have and we also have Michael Eze from Michael. Remind me again where you're from. Is it Uganda? Michael. All right. When you come off mute, you can let me know. Okay, very good. Thank you. And what we have today is a remarkable program that we've put together to really engage with each and every one of you truly as our co-host today, to engage in conversation and to help us to move forward. I'll leave it now to Natasha, who has really been helping to put this thing together in the background, and he has been such a bright light supporting us, through to make sure that these events actually happen. And she's going to give some housekeeping rules. You may go ahead, Natasha.
Thank you, Moleen. Dear guests, welcome. Let me introduce to you briefly house rules for this session. Please participate, be active, raise your hand and speak up, or use the chat box. There will be time available for discussion. When you don't speak, please mute your microphone so not to interrupt others. The webinar is being recorded. All materials will be available on Ecocivilisation webpage and also YouTube channel after the webinar. We would also highly appreciate your feedback after the end of the webinar. Thank you for your attention and enjoy.
That's great. All right, lead it back to Chene.
Thank you very much, Dr. Molly. Thank you, Natasha, for that, for the house rules. It is always such a deep honor to be in the presence of so many great people, but importantly, to take time to reflect on what matters, the human being, you as an individual, I as an individual, and seeing how when we come together, what we can produce, when I recognize truly that I am because you are. That for me has been such a strong principle throughout this year. And when we met and started this year of Ubuntu, I am going to start at the beginning of last year, at the end of last year when we met, and we thought it wise to begin to imagine or reimagine, come together, create a wisdom-seeking platform where we are really trying to understand what this ancient philosophy of Ubuntu, this Southern African principle, what can it offer to the world? What is it? How are we relating to it? How are we embracing it? How are we living it? So when we came together, the Honorable Violeta, Dr. Molly, this was all we had in mind. We wanted to create such a platform where like-minded people can begin to reimagine, to think, to share, to give, to open hearts, and to grow in this ancient wisdom of Ubuntu. When I look at the work that I do at Chenesai, Africa, I could not have been more in tune with coming together with these women, because at the core of what we do is the person. We believe that through everything, as a trade lawyer, we believe trade is about people. And more, when we look at policies being made at the World Bank, at the UN, we sometimes think that, we forget that it is about the people. Who are the people? What are the people doing? And what are the people thinking? What are the people feeling? More and more, when you see me in my work, I'm consumed with women in markets, only because it is that relation that allows me to understand when I sit in a dialogue like this, what do these mothers, sisters need? What policies, what frameworks do they need to propel their trade? Trade is about people. Then I met Violeta, who feels that not only are we talking about trade, but we're talking about an eco-civilization, where we're talking about the circular economy, where we're talking about what the environment, what the people, what economics, all these factors brought together, what do they begin to do to the New World Order? COVID-19 gave us an opportunity to reflect as such. Having worked so deeply with Dr. Moleen Madziva, a mentor over the years, a sister, a friend, her work with Macheke Sustainability Project goes back to the people. As a resident of Macheke, she remembered and decided at some point in her life that this is become her life dedication, to realize, to understand what would sustainable development for the Macheke community look like. And we're back to that word, sustainability. Then we go right back to Ubuntu. I am because you are. Ubuntu for us produced such an intriguing understanding, or started to inspire in our thinking, that there is sustainability in understanding that at the core of everything we're trying to do, protecting our environment, growing our economies, protecting, oh gosh. What happened?
Keep going. We can hear you.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
I thought I lost.
We are right here.
Oh, fantastic. I don't know. I lost reception for some reason. But protecting our environment, protecting our people. What would that all look like when we start really hearing each other, listening to each other? And it's commanded a different form of listening, because as we listened to doctors in practice talk about their day-to-day lived experience, Dr. Mona, an ER emergency doctor in New York City, how she listens to a patient, how Ubuntu can give her an outing to serve her patients more. It was such a beautiful year of exploration. I would invite you to watch some of our past work. And as we went on to listen to teachers, to listen to healthcare practitioners, to listen to creative business people, we came to understanding, we came to learning what we want to say, learn to learn. We came to learning that there is wisdom in truly embracing the idea and the notion that I am because you are. And I remember during the presentation by Dr. Michael said something very sharp. He said, this idea of I am because you are doesn't talk about sameness. It actually embraces and starts understanding that through our differences, can we be greater? And I remember one day I saw the work of Thomas Legrand, and I thought, oh my goodness, there are people in this world that are actually thinking that these ancient wisdoms, these ancient philosophies, these principles of Ubuntu can come and prefer and be a solution to the new world order we are finding ourselves in post-COVID and during COVID. This is what Year of Ubuntu has been about. Learning, listening, relearning, unlearning, and importantly, just being together in a platform where the primary idea is to seek wisdom, to listen to wisdom, and to think of bigger and greater ways of how we can be in a world that needs us to rethink a circular economy, to rethink what sustainable development actually means for the woman in the market. Trade is about people. Living is about people. That is what Year of Ubuntu is about. And as we continue our Year of Ubuntu, as we continue learning these philosophies and what it can present or how it can present in our day-to-day lives, we want to invite you to continue following our journey in different forms, through Ecocivilisation, through Macheke sustainability, through Thomas Legrand's work, through Eric's work, Dr. Michael's work. There is so much opportunity in opening up our hearts and opening up our minds to possibilities of a world that is committed to living in community. And this walks us right in to the notion of smart villages and smart communities that my brother Stephen is about to talk about. Stephen and I met about 2 years ago as well. He is based in Zambia, a true Zimbabwean. And I think what brought us together is our drive and our hunger to work with people, but importantly, to serve people first and seek results later. Stephen is going to walk us through what we are fondly this year have been exploring, work that has profoundly been started by Violeta and a lot of her colleagues at the EU on smart villages. And how does the concept of Ubuntu tie into all of this? In a nutshell, the Year of Ubuntu has been about me realizing that you are there and you realizing that I am here. And truly understanding that we need each other to start talking to each other, listening to each other, hearing each other as we prepare for a new world order, because it surely is a new world order. Thank you very much for joining us. Maita Basa. Siyabonga kakhulu. Over to you, Stephen.
Thank you so much, Chenesai. And once again, I would like to greet you all, the panelists here, and all that have joined us to follow the discussion. My name is Stephen Muraga, and I'm an entrepreneur involved in the logistics, transportation and logistics industry. And I'm also involved in ecosystem building efforts. And through Nyamukafrika, we started an ambitious program, an ambitious project called Great Zambezi Initiative, which gets its background from, when we realized that the majority of our population here in Africa, especially when you look at Zimbabwe, Zambia, Malawi, these 8 countries that share the great river called the Zambezi. That's what, just learning about life in the Zambezi Basin, which is away from, the lights, the urban lights. You could tell that there's quite a lot that is going on. The world we are living in has become so fast-paced, and yet there's a gap that used to be very small between the urban communities and the rural communities. And this gap has been growing wider and wider over the past years. And with the age of the digital economy, if this gap is likely to increase, to become bigger, whereby the people who are living in the rural communities are further left behind, or we could look at this as a point of opportunity where we could actually, take advantage of the digital economy that is upon us and fast track development in the marginalized communities, which are the rural communities, and try and close this gap. And in the process, we have a chance of, creating jobs, creating value, So that's how I became passionate and became involved in this work around smart villages. I want to believe that at this moment, Africa as a continent is presented with a huge opportunity. And if governments, private sector players, of course, non-governmental organizations, if all of us could come together in the spirit of Ubuntu and say, okay, we are going to put our weight behind this concept of smart villages, we stand a better chance of addressing many issues that are affecting the continent, many issues that are affecting the world at large. When we look at the temperatures, like right now, it's burning like I've never experienced. The issue of global warming and all the smart villages they look like they have the potential to address most of these issues that the world is dealing with right now. There's this forced migration from rural communities to urban communities. There's also, just deforestation, unnecessary waste that is taking place. If you look from the countryside there, unnecessary cutting of trees, unnecessary waste, you know, like just like for the farm, from the farms. And yeah, and yet, if we look at the, you know, considering that this is the year of Ubuntu, I want to believe that the spirit of Ubuntu, or the concept of Ubuntu, is much alive in the rural setup than it is in the urban setup. So one thing for sure, there is still that oneness. There's still that community, that togetherness, as compared to in the urban cities, where sometimes you don't even want to know who is staying next to your house. You know, in the city, it's not like that. In the rural areas, there's still this oneness where people come together to deal with the problems that affect their communities. So I feel it is a huge opportunity to preserve Ubuntu. Madam Violeta always says Europe is trying to rebuild what was destroyed. And here in Africa, we still have, we should not go the same path that Europe went, you know, destroy village life, trying to just, you know, and then you go about now to say, okay, let's restore back, let's put back together what was there. We have a chance where we can preserve our rural communities, whilst also enhancing, it could be the production. I'm looking at farmers. I come from a village in Zimbabwe called Gokwe, where we used to work the fields. We used to till, you know, vast pieces of land, and we're a small family. The idea has been that if you put more seed on the soil, if you cover more ground, you stand a better chance of getting, you know, a better harvest. I feel like if deliberate efforts can be made in helping our people living in the rural communities to do smart farming. You know, this is all about education. How can we help our rural communities to adopt smart farming methods so that they can, you know, work less, work smart, get a better return? Maybe how they can add value to what they are producing. It is common knowledge that the majority of the food that we are eating, you know, in Zambia, Zimbabwe, and majority of African countries, is coming from peasant farmers. It's not even the commercial farmers who are feeding us. So it could be the time that Africa, you know, all in Africa should seriously consider this concept of smart villages, on how we can make things better. How can we, you know, amplify, you know, that which is already existing. Life is beautiful there, out there. The air is not as polluted as we have here in the city. How can we make it attractive to these young people who are just rushing to the city to do nothing, be involved in all these kind of vices, instead of them looking at life in the village as an alternative? So, okay, I can actually be in the village. I can actually be, you know, earning a living here and contributing to national, you know, development. There's one thing that is a major problem, you know, in addition to healthcare, and the one thing that is a problem right now is financial inclusion. The issue of financial inclusion, which is affecting mainly people in the rural communities. We believe that if we can deliberately put our heads together and be deliberate about the concept of smart villages, it's going to be able to address all these issues, like you know, connectivity, as well as financial inclusion. So we were talking to one of the MNOs here in Zambia trying to understand why is it that they are not rolling out connectivity, like these towers in the rural areas. And their argument is that it has to make business sense for them to go in the rural areas. They cannot just go there and connect people who are not, who do not have any kind of commercial activity they are involved in. I know my time is running out. Yeah, so I don't know if I've managed to communicate a point or two here, but what I'm saying is there's no better time than now for Africa to get ahead. And smart villages is one sure way that Africa can get ahead, as we'll be closing the gap that is between those who are in the urban cities and those who are in the rural areas. If we could close that gap, that I believe is the surest way for Africa to go ahead and leaving no one behind. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. I bow to you. What a difference a year can make. We met for the first time on this topic a year ago at 𝔼𝕚𝕚𝕚𝕚 Initiative. And look at this. I mean, you are already having a real presidential speech with all the necessary ingredients. Thank you very much. I mean, indeed, the message that you shared is that Africa really is an ideal position not to destroy and then rebuild, but to really acknowledge what you have and evolve is a very strong message. And I would only like to invite you all that you see potentially in smart villages an opportunity not to copy you who started first a couple of years ago this concept, but just to be challenged by the concept enough that you look at your own capacities and what would that mean for Africa. Stephen mentioned digitalization, green energy, and of course also the challenge of investments. But there is also social frameworks and social services and all this together to address with a profound new view that Chenesai invited us into, to also address the key global challenges like climate change, like pandemic, like poverty, because today we're really helpless. I mean, more money we pour into addressing these issues, bigger these issues are becoming. So there is something fundamentally wrong with our approach. So we gotta take a fresh new look. And that is now the question from me to you, because we would like to open today's meeting now for a open session. And I'm asking you, can you recognize a potential in smart villages for the future of Africa? Can you see there the ingredients that can really honor Ubuntu as this incredible frequency of Africa to be carried forward in its profound message and really integrated in all the activities? Because the world situation is inviting us that if I don't see you, and if I don't see myself in you, and inviting you that you see yourself in me, how can we address the challenges that are so big that nobody can address them by her or himself? So we're opening the stage now for a discussion based on all the introductions we've had. And the question is, can the concept of smart village, smart community, be the one that can energize and give a new, fresh chance to Africa to preserve and evolve what you already have and it hasn't been destroyed yet? And how can you continue to empower these new approaches with the incredible message of Ubuntu? The floor is open.
Woohoo! Thanks, Violeta. This is really great. And, just come off mute if you want to share something or raise your hand using the raise hand feature there, and we can call on you. Wow. All right, Anna, I see you. Go ahead.
Thank you. I just shortly, if I say, I would say definitely yes. I see the potential. I will share a very personal thing. I was in Africa, in Ethiopia, 14 years ago, living with the local people for some weeks. And when I came back to Europe and started my family then at the time and just started living a normal European life, I felt I lived completely wrong, because there was no this feeling of caring for each other, knowing each other, sitting by the fire, just, living a life that I felt in Africa. And ever since I started my family in Europe, then I was looking for this eco-villages concept and, trying to find a community or even establish one, which is still going on somehow. So I definitely feel that Africa is this old ancient continent with the values that still exist there is key for us to transform and to live a connected life with each other and with the planet, with the earth we have. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Anna. That's so great. And I guess while someone else is, preparing to come on, I would also like to just share, my own story as well, related to the idea of, smart communities. And thank you, Stephen, for the work that you're doing, because it will be, while it may seem like it's a lot of work now, it's something that can actually shape the future even well past our times. But one of the things, having grown up in a rural community, I did recognize that a smart community would definitely need to have technology. So with the work that we do, we bring, computers, drones, and electricity, solar panels, ways that we can actually continue to, almost like, bring that gap to a place where it's no longer, affecting the rural communities in a way that is not sustainable. However, one of the integral parts of the work that we do is about recognizing that wisdom in people are really important to any type of community that we want to build. So it's almost about re-encouraging the locals to recognize that, yes, as in who we are, caring about each other, caring about our neighbors, caring about the broader family and the broader community is actually what is most important in any smart community. So a smart community is truly about that wisdom of recognizing that in who I am, I can actually contribute authentically to contribute to a smart community. So I then took it when I came to the US, and now I live in California, again, in a community that is very modern, in the sense that folks keep to themselves, and I started to wonder, how is it that I can actually live this in practice, right? Because Ubuntu is not so much about talking about it or having a philosophy that we can spend all day talking about. In who I am, I actually have to offer that to the world and offer that light to the world. So I decided, to work with my mom, and I'm really privileged that, she's aging and living here with me in this, last chapter of her life. And we started growing a garden. Right, so we grew it in the backyard because there are rules surrounding, what you can do in the front yard and such. But it's in the backyard, and guess what we've been doing? Every time we have a good harvest, we go knock on everyone's door and we offer them vegetables. And in the summer, we welcome people to come to the backyard and eat peaches with us. We even have mukuyu, what are they called in English? Some figs. And folks come and enjoy. Now it's gotten to a place where I get text messages from time to time. Moleen, I'm about to go to the grocery store. What might you like? Right, so we are already starting to shift a Southern California community from being just as smart as far as technology and economic development is concerned, to a community where we can start talking about the people and the wisdom of what it means to have Ubuntu or to be Ubuntu. And I'm wondering, for those that are living outside of rural communities, in what ways are you seeing an opportunity, or maybe you're already doing something that you can share here regarding Ubuntu and bringing it to the world? I see a hand up, Isaac Katie. Go ahead.
Hi. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. If my audio starts to go out, we're having windstorms today, so it might affect my audio. It's definitely affecting the video.
Where are you, Katie? Where are you calling from?
I'm right outside of Philadelphia in the United States. And it's so interesting that Molly was just talking. We've, of course, texted about our gardens and what we do. So one thing that we have sort of started to do in my small town is talk about water reclamation and talk about the use of water. And it's something that is so interesting to me because water is something that affects, you know, the people downstream from you. And my husband and I are looking at ways of doing some water reclamation, some underground water reclamation, so that we can use rainwater for our gardens. And universally, when I talk to people about this, the response has been, well, why do you want to invest money in that? Water is so cheap. And I said, well, yes, water is cheap now, maybe, but you know, if it falls from the sky, why shouldn't we use what's, you know, landing on our property anyway? And the other response, which has sort of surprised me, my town, has been, well, you are at sort of the top of the hill, so excess rainwater doesn't impact you. So why does it matter if there's excess water coming off your property? And I think, well, gosh, I know people at the bottom of the hill whose basements get flooded every time we have these big rainstorms. And of course, the rainstorms are getting worse. We're getting sort of the same amount of rain, but in fewer and fewer storms. So they just cause this catastrophic damage. But one thing, I'm a member of the Planning Commission in my community, and it has sort of opened a conversation for how we can utilize stormwater on individual properties for people to use, but also to keep the rainwater on individual properties so it doesn't affect people down the hill. And I sort of wanted to get some feedback from all of you about, you know, it sounds sort of trite, but how can I get people to care about the people at the bottom of the hill who are being affected by this rainwater? A lot of times it's sort of like, well, if it's not happening to me, then it's up to them to deal with it, even though the water is coming from other properties. So I sort of want to get some feedback from you, if anyone has had any experiences sort of with this sort of thing, maybe not with rainwater, but with other things. I'd like to get some feedback.
Thank you, Katie. I was thinking someone else might want to chime in, and I will give, you know, certainly an opportunity for anyone. You can come off mute. But as you were talking, I was thinking everyone who is based in Africa, or who has these African roots and really grew up seeing Hunu or Ubuntu as a natural thing, this is an opportunity of celebration, right? Recognizing that you don't have to learn it so much later in life, when it has now come down to how can we actually encourage others to care not only about themselves, but about others as well. So the idea that we are, you know, and Katie, you know, I lived in Philadelphia as well. Katie and I went to college together at Drexel University. Hi, Drexel. And they trained us to be engineers. But one of the things that was very clear is we do live here in the US in what might be broadly an individualistic society. Yes. And self-made men, becoming millionaires and billionaires, and really patting themselves on the back for that. And we started to already question that notion from early on, to say, certainly I think there's so much to be gained about honoring my individuality. But when we're talking about smart communities, and I guess Stephen, you could also add here to support Katie, maybe we need to bring Stephen to Philadelphia. We'll bring you on a trip here, and you can give a presentation and really talk about this. The challenge with the concept of Ubuntu is it's not only a philosophy that we can present on, but it's also an embodied practice. So I think inviting more people to your backyard perhaps, and for them to start recognizing that it's a lot more about community and caring for each other than it is about even questioning what will I lose by giving, right? Maybe the question should be flipped the other way. What can I gain by giving?
And while we're waiting for another hand to come up, Katie, I worked really a lot with local communities for many, many years, 15 years before I even entered the politics. And one thing I've learned is find one shared need and just bring one person on board, and then another, and another, and another. And things started to grow. Once you start addressing genuine needs, maybe people are not completely aware of water challenge at this point, but maybe there is something that everybody cares about. And build trust and collaboration with participatory modeling, you know, bring them to the backyard and use some papers and try to start brainstorming together. It's really contagious. And once you hit the right thing, things evolve. And just keep trusting and demonstrating with your own behavior that you care. Try not to expect too much, but just go with the flow. And it's really fantastic what emerges out of it when the true needs are addressed. And eventually you will be able to present your case for water as well, and they will listen, just as a suggestion.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else would like to share especially people from Africa? Have you felt challenged by Stephen, by myself, by Cheney, by Molly? Have you recognized this need to really work with the countryside of Africa, with rural areas, and making sure that you don't destroy them, but rather amplify their dynamic and their value in order to serve people through the community circles empowered by Ubuntu?
I see my sister's hand is up. Anna is my sister. So happy to have you, Anna. It would be great if you turned on your video if Bulawayo is not training too much. But before I go to Anna, I have a quick question for Anna. Anna, you shared about your experiences in Ethiopia. There's one thing that I wanted to ask. What exactly struck you about your experience in Ethiopia? What was it that moved your heart, that made you out of place when you finally went back?
Yes, thank you. So I was in Mago region with the Hamar people. And what struck me most is that no child was ever alone. So everybody was constantly surrounded by somebody, and they were holding hands or just, being around each other. So kids were never alone. And when I then myself had my own baby, I was faced with the challenge of the modern life where you have this big house and you're then a mom with this baby alone. And it's like, it feels so wrong when you once have experienced this just natural togetherness, which I felt in Africa.
Wow, that's powerful, Anna. Thank you for that. I was intrigued. We're gonna go to Anna. Sis Anna, are you still there? I saw your hand up.
Yes, I am.
Please go ahead.
Yes, I just want to appreciate everybody's contributions here on what they have shared and say, for us Africans, we live Ubuntu. So at times it's quite difficult to try and explain it and put it in words exactly what it is, because we come from it, we live it. We deal with it every day. I just want to give an example. Every time I visit overseas, UK, wherever I go, I have this, my children tend to actually reprimand me. I greet anybody on the train. I'm sitting next to somebody going to London. I'll say, hello, how are you? And, it's it's natural to me. It comes next as natural as possible. But I realized overseas, they don't greet you. They don't. So I've actually taken it as a challenge to myself that I will continue impacting people in the manner I was brought up to, because that's Ubuntu. I appreciate you. You are, because I am. I'm different to you. I have what I have, and you have what you have. So in our villages, right now I stay in town. Yes, we have gadgets now coming in, electronics, and you name it. And we're beginning to use it also in the villages. No, coming up with chat groups so that communication is made easier. But at the same time, not losing the togetherness, the visiting each other, neighborliness, you know, extended family feeling. Because if you don't see the next person, somehow we feel lonely. I just want to say to my namesake, Anna, you can actually start this togetherness where you are. You have learned already how to do it. Start it. Small groupings, you see how people appreciate it. They're actually missing, they do not know it, they don't understand it. So because you have been there, you can share with them the warmness of being together, of supporting each other, especially young mothers like you. You know, you need support. In Africa, we didn't have to, when we're bringing up our children, we didn't have to even ask if somebody can look after your child, because a child is raised by a village. This is our attitude. And I think the world over now, I think if they take the same attitude that a child, so-and-so's child, my neighbor's child is my child, they would look after those children who are right now being abused or doing wrong things, and we are watching. So Ubuntu starts from there, the little you can do, the little you can give to say, let me help this person, and not be afraid to do that. That's the best I can share with you. And I really enjoy the conversation, sharing which is happening here. People are definitely learning. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Wonderful, wonderful, Anna. And this is something I recall from my childhood. We used to have that in Europe too. I grew up in a village, and kids, everybody took care of us. And we kind of are losing it. So it's really, really important we remember that back, and we understand also the power of the community. And Stephen, we have here one question for you in the chat. Manica is asking, Stephen, I'm wondering regarding attracting people from the city to go live in the country. Do you think about starting with a tourist village, like almost as a showroom experience? First they try, then they feel, and then they move. And please unmute yourself, Stephen.
Okay, it's an exciting idea to talk about tourist villages, but I would think a tourist village. I think we do have such places where tourists who are coming from other countries, they visit us, they want to see how village life is, they go meet our community leaders, give them some gifts and all. But that, the difference that is being made by such is very small in a way. I've realized that it's the tour companies that are based in the cities that get all the money from all these tourists. They take them, let us go and show you the countryside. I would think we need to look at the locals, because like I've just highlighted here, it's difficult to find a Zambian who is living in Lusaka or a Zimbabwean who is living in Harare, just coming together, say, guys, let's go and visit a certain village and just see how life is like there. there is that mindset where people think rural life is associated with poverty, with suffering, and all. So I would think the best way is to look at what are the major economic drivers, like in the rural communities. When you look at farming, in some communities, of course, there's mining and all the other activities. These major, economic drivers, and then we could possibly, like what we have been doing with the Great Zambezi Initiative, we could not access the rural youths to provide training on innovation, entrepreneurship through Zoom. So we had to target those who are in the cities, but we come up with a theme that is provoking, those who have got their roots in the villages. You tell them, we'd like to come up with solutions, with innovation on how can we improve the situation back in the villages. So they are in touch with their relatives there, maybe they have lived there before, and you try to come up with solutions that can easily plug into the life that is already happening there. And how can we make it better? How can we make, how can we create more value on what is already happening there? So when somebody is assured that when they go to the village, they stand a chance of earning a living, earning the same salary that they are supposed to earn, maybe while living in the city. I think that has got a way of drawing. I've been hearing quite a lot of people who are living in the city. Everyone is talking, I need to go to the farm. I need to go to the farm and do something back in the village. That is the mindset I think that we need to cultivate. And the tourist village could be a part, maybe a part of the package, like when you're saying now we are having a smart village. Because most of these tourist villages, they are attracting foreigners. Those who come, they have a week or two in Africa, they go check out, take some photos, pose with the rural folk. That's all. We want something that appeals to our own people who are doing nothing in the cities. I think that is what can help to reverse the migration.
Thank you, Stephen. Yes, thank you, Stephen, for this. I think what you're saying basically is you need infrastructure in rural areas and then the business will flourish. You don't want just tourists, you want people of Africa to live well, a decent lifestyle also in a countryside, in the rural areas. So yeah, you need politicians on board, you need to redirect the money, investment money, and go for it. That's what we're trying to do in Europe, and little by little, we are manifesting the path. We have two more questions. We have Jasna Shepetouts, twice already tried to come on board. So Jasna, go first, and then we also have another hand. We had another handout from Floris van der Waal. But Jasna, go first.
Hi, I am from Slovenia. I'm new in this thing, so I have one basic question. Actually, about this I am because you are. I would like to discuss or some feedbacks about negative points of it. For example, I see where is here a personal responsibility when I'm talking I am angry because you are angry, for example. So that means it is okay when when you go forward with a positive attitude, but what if you go forward with a negative attitude? And with this kind of I am because you are. Thank you.
That's a great. Sorry, go ahead, Violeta. I was going to take
No, just very interesting question. I'm inviting people of Africa who live daily this Ubuntu philosophy. This is a good question.
Yeah, can I intervene here?
Please,
Shouldn't we move on to the next section so that we can integrate all this conversation in a space where we can talk about this kind of Ubuntu philosophy and continuity with the smart villages, how it's important. I think we should maybe to the next session of this conversation. So then the question she just asked would be very well explained in that space. That's what I'm just
okay,
suggesting.
super. Jasna,
Yeah,
then
because of time. Because of time, yes.
No, it's okay. We have time. We're not in a rush. That's okay. But Jasna, can you hold and get your answer later on? Great. And then I'm inviting Floris van der Weylt to come forward, please.
Yeah, Floris here from South Africa. I'm just a bit of concerned that we are looking at living in Africa from the capitalist world, on making money in the cities, trying to make money in the rural areas, trying to make money. And Stefan and some other people have mentioned circular economies. Now, the circular economies is very good if you're still in a capitalist world, where for an environmental benefits that you can look at the circular economy. I miss a bit a gift economy or a share economy, where we actually start sharing what we have, gift what the forward payment that we give other people what we have as well. And if we don't break out of this capitalist, westernized thinking about Africa, I'm not so sure Africa is going to move forward, because in Africa, the mentality at the moment is, I need to be like a Western world, like a Westerner with a lot of money, a great car, a great house, and good clothes. And while we're in this state of mind of building a capitalist world in the Western world and trying to stempel that onto Africa, I'm not so sure that Ubuntu got even a chance in the world. So Ubuntu for me, just to come back to Jasna, and I'm not going to take your shine away, Michael, is to really share, to really get together and be there, because the community will support you, as Anna have said, when you don't have anything. And that to me is Ubuntu. And then we have to get out of this capitalist thinking in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's true that today we haven't even spoken about money yet. Investments, yes, money not. Value, a better life. But you're right, Cheney mentioned already circular economy, but more from the point of view that we need to be aware that we don't destroy the environment and the countryside, and try to build on the negative experience that the West, which is based on capitalism, is bringing. So I'm also very much tapping into the emergence of new wisdom. I'm looking forward to the comments that are coming, because that's the point. When we've heard about Ubuntu and seeing in Europe how many people started to talk about Ubuntu, that's when I invited my dear friend Cheney and Molly. I said, hey, come on, seize the moment. We should not be teaching the world about Ubuntu, Europeans. You should teach us. And that's how this year of Ubuntu came all about. And I'm so happy and so inspired, because we are learning from the true roots. And that's the only way really to learn the heart of these old wisdoms. But let's move on. Thank you very much. And sharing and collaborative economies, certainly I'm inviting also the people who are thinking about development of rural areas, that they take that into account. It's a powerful model. Now, do we have any other hand?
I think Kate had a question before. Kate, do you still want to?
And Stephen is there as well, who wants to comment.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you so much for this topic of spirit of Ubuntu. I think I agree with the last speaker who said we're looking at it from a capitalist point of view of making money out of it. In a typical Ubuntu kind of living that those of us who've lived through it know that we are not, yes, we are not all equals. There are those who have, but how you benefit, what you do has to benefit the whole community. If you own 100 cattle, you don't, and there are some who don't have, you let those who don't have look after some of that stuff or some of the cattle for you, so that their children can have milk. So it's not just you who's got it all, but your community has. You benefit by them looking after your livestock for you, and they benefit by having the manure to put in their fields, milk for the children to feed the families, animals to use when they are plowing those fields. So I think our generation, we still have the people who lived that kind of life. So as a result, we need to go back to that. I find that people, you find one person will go and buy 10 houses, but the healthcare system is falling apart. Why not the 10 people who each own 10 houses just have one house and put the rest of the resources into the healthcare system? They will benefit from people who will pay for that health system, but people will have what to use. And that's what spirit of Ubuntu is not you only having it all. What you have should benefit everyone, but you are not a pauper, you are not a charity. You get something out of it as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen.
Okay. I felt maybe I should comment on the great submission from Floris about what he said, like just like about making money and I feel the spirit of Ubuntu lives. I mean, it's from very far. It's part of our history. It's where we are coming from. But I think in a way, it should also evolve. We can still be caring. We can still be loving, and also look at what is.
Oh, we can't hear you, Stephen. Is that me?
Prevailing right now, where we are going. I want to just maybe correct there that I think money is not a bad thing. Like having money is not a bad thing. We need money to improve. Even when we say, for me to be able to share, I can share more when I have more. So I just does not have to have the capacity to create their own wealth. So I think there, I just felt maybe let me come in there to say there's nothing wrong with making money. Making money should not destroy the Ubuntu spirit. The Ubuntu spirit should make it possible for all to make money, to have a chance to make money, which will help, which will increase our capacity to share. I think it's because when you have little, the temptation to keep to yourself becomes so strong. My submission there.
I love this. It sounds like Stephen and Floris and maybe Kate should be going out to dinner or coffee. But this is a wonderful segue into Thomas and Dr. Michael Eze, because we really wanted an opportunity to get some of their reflections, and it looks like Thomas, you already wanted to add in here. Why don't we have you come in with some reflections and share, and we can continue this conversation as it goes. But thank you for the enlightened and very vibrant care for how we shall move forward. Indeed, this is what the next generation will feel. Go ahead, Thomas.
Thank you, Moleen. Yes, I thought I would build on the exchange on money, Ubuntu, etc., because I'm just publishing a book which is called Politics of Being, in which I argue that often we have taken having and GDP our main collective goal, and I argue that it would make sense now to have rather being our main collective goal. And in African context, probably being means Ubuntu. So I would say rather that the economy and helping people meet their basic material needs is rather a mean for helping us to become more fully human, right? Which is a definition of Ubuntu. So if we could switch, our collective attention or intention in that direction and talks about what is really important in lives, what can make us fulfilled. And I think there's a lot of science that tells us that it's a lot about human connection and connection to ourselves, what we could talk. Well, I like very much, in I am because you are, we call it interbeing, which is a word that Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh, I think, first quoted and actually lived next to his monastery. So I really appreciate, this universal aspect of interbeing that you can find in many traditional wisdom, and that is very well expressed in Ubuntu. And to me, before I got interested in Ubuntu, I worked quite a bit in Africa in the field of sustainability. And I remember before hearing about Ubuntu, I remember saying to someone like, what I really admire in Africa is that it's the humanness. So it's Ubuntu. And I feel like I could witness, especially with the people I was working with in working relationship. In many places, working relationships are really defined, and there is not so much room for the human dimension. And I felt like in Africa, even at work, every relationship are first of all a human relationship. So there's always a context, and there's always people are all different, and you should adapt to everyone's context. And I find that so rich. And so definitely, I think so I live myself, I'm coming from, I grew up in Paris, a town in Europe. And I remember, I felt like there was something a bit wrong with our culture, almost toxic, I could say. And one of the examples I would think about, even as a young person, is why are we not talking to each other in public transportation? So, I don't think that's only an African need, but it's really a universal aspect of what it is to be human. And now I live in the countryside, very close, not to maybe French traditional wisdom, but to this traditional wisdom that is more coming from the East in that case, with this Buddhist monastery, but that express exactly the same values of interbeing. And in this place, I get to experience, this monastery, there's like maybe 150 monks and nuns, plus people, lay people living inside, or lay people like me living just outside. And we live together, and there is no, to take care of this place, there is, if you compare it to how societies work, you have a job, you need to do that. If you don't do it, you're punished, etc. It works completely differently here. Like everybody, it's rather everybody wants to contribute to the community, and we name it our beloved community. And we understand that if someone does not contribute, it's healthy to really want to contribute and offer our best. And we can talk, we can regulate, what we do, taking into account, how everybody feels, and taking care of our relationships through specific practices. So I really like this universal aspect of Ubuntu, of the spirit of interbeing, which I think is really the key to our future. And I congratulate you for nourishing that spirit. Also, I'd like to hear maybe also some African point of view of traditions need always to be updated. It's always to be, you know, adapted. And there is maybe also some wrong aspect that I've heard some African friends, you know, highlighting about being kept, for example, in some networks of relationships, etc. So it would be also interesting to explore that. But thank you very much, and I'm glad to be with you today.
That's great. Dr. Eze, you want to take a step at this?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone who has spoken. Thomas, thank you so much. And Stephen, I'd like to continue because I think what Stephen is doing is extremely important, because what Stephen is trying to do is to bridge the communities, is to bridge the challenges we have in contemporary African societies. And I say societies because, please, one first thing I need to talk about Ubuntu, then I link it to Stephen, is that you know, there's always this understanding of reference to Africa as a kind of a homogeneous space. You know, it's not a country. Africa is not a country, and it's not one culture at all. We're talking about over 1 billion people. And even the concept of Ubuntu as practiced in Zimbabwe or South Africa is not the same in Central African Republic. So there are some connections, but the whole kind of spiritual consciousness relating them. So I'm an academic. I mean, as an academic, I'm always worried a bit when we talk about African cultures in Africa, as if it's just what they do in Africa as a place. No. So that's first thing I want to correct, that no, it's not this. That's Africa. That's not like homogeneous Ubuntu culture in Africa. No, it doesn't. That thing doesn't exist. And it's a form of actually epistemic violence to impose, say this is what they do in Africa. Another one I want to talk about is the materiality of Ubuntu. You know, I receive a lot of invitations, especially in Europe, people seeing Ubuntu as a kind of a magic bullet to solve problems we have all over. So whatever we have, we throw Ubuntu at it. There's a crisis, okay, bring Ubuntu to solution, Ubuntu materialism. And I have a kind of a personal revulsion to that, because it doesn't help. It doesn't. It actually contradicts what the spirit of Ubuntu suggests. Ubuntu, in a very fancy philosophical word, is what we call a virtue ethics. Okay, so let's do some small philosophy. So just allow me. So we'll do a little bit of philosophy here. Just 1 minute philosophy. So what Ubuntu does is this. You see, in European societies, the foundation of, you see, I put societies. So please, when we talk about Africa, we should remember also societies too. We can't just juxtapose everything and say African is not one. So in European societies, when you talk about the rule of law, modernity, enlightenment, human rights, for example, you say that it comes from enlightenment and rationality. So the argument of rational humanism, that question asks, what law can I obey to be a good person all the time? So you have this bureaucratic rationality, bureaucratic dictatorship. There is law, so they give you a textbook, check. If you fulfill all these conditions, then you are a good law-abiding citizen in a European society. So that's kind of like people like Kant, but generally what governs the political unconscious or the political culture of many European societies, the law, the rule of law. So this would be rule-based, what I call a rule-based ethics. If you fulfill the conditions, check, you are a good citizen. Now, Ubuntu doesn't say you should obey the law, but Ubuntu says, instead of asking you, so this is where it's not about the substantive content, but as an attitude. So instead of asking, what law should I obey to be a good citizen? Now, Ubuntu changes the question we ask. How do I become a good human being who is right all the time? Not what I should do. But when I hear some people talk about Ubuntu, they think about what should I do? What can I do? No, Ubuntu doesn't say what can I do. And so we'll talk about this response about what should I do, what Ubuntu can do. No, it's how do you become a good human being? It's like Ubuntu says, okay, you're working in a workplace. You say, these people are not happy. Ubuntu doesn't say what law should you to be happy. It says, Ubuntu says, create happiness in your context. You see now, so the power is in individual. So, and so people talk about, so please, this is the difference. And so Ubuntu doesn't say, what can I do? So how do you become a good human being? So that if you are in a Harare in the middle of the night and the traffic light is red, and then no car is coming and it's raining, Ubuntu will say you have common sense, you're a good human being. It's okay to cross the traffic light if you experience danger. I'm not saying you should disobey the traffic light, but you see, how do I become a good human being? What I call in my own work, mobile subjectivity. Mobility, mobile subjectivity. This is a phrase I coined. And this is why in my own work, I came away with this idea, with our conversation with this project, this wonderful project that people talk about I am because we are. I said, no, we should use I am because you are, because we are recognize only the people we know, recognize only people we would like. So it's an attitude. And so what if it is an attitude then? What it means to be a good human being in different societies should be also paid attention to. So it's not something you can say, okay, let's go to Africa, and then borrow what they do and then import it to Europe. That is not how Ubuntu works in my own reflection. That's not how Ubuntu works in my own reflection, in my own writing. I'm suggesting that we should not think of it as a rule-based ethics, which what you do. Then you're Ubuntu person when you do certain things, but it's about what I call in my own book, I call it is an emancipatory epistemology. It's transformative, not just for the individual who is practicing it, but also for the people you encounter. And that's why I said that creation otherness, you create the other. We create each other. We create each other and say, you create me, I create you in that terms of relationship, relation and distance. And Sister Chenesai said it at the beginning, that is difference is not a threat, but a gift to be celebrated and so on and so forth. This type of care. And so this then, I want to link it then to the question, to the challenge that Flores posed for us. I think Flores posed a very important question, and I want to link it to what Stephen was saying, because he wants to say, how do we then deal with Ubuntu? Because we need a neoliberal society. We cannot go back to pre-colonial Africa again. What it used to be before Africa came, before colonialism came. Those kind of societies don't exist anymore. So what Stephen is trying to do is, how do we transfer? How do we move? How do we push our society carrying the same mindset to the modern world? So kind of a transformation, so not from outside, but from within. We cannot avoid modernity. You cannot avoid it. It's a world. We all use cell phones. We all use, I'm talking to you with Zoom. I'm somewhere in Netherlands. People are from all over the world. We said, how do we make this work for us? So how do we make this work for us? And how can we imbibe this kind of communitarian ethos of Ubuntu in a larger African society? And this is where then he talks about compassion. He talks about sharing. He did toleration, but also what I picked in that compassion and sharing in this award, compassion and sharing, that when I am better, when I am happy, then the whole community is happy and so on and so forth. So the question then is, does Ubuntu go against capitalism? I don't think so. I think Ubuntu encourages strong capitalism as much as possible. I think it's powerful. So because if you are rich, we're all rich in that sense. So when you're happy, I'm happy. Everybody's happy. It's like saying an Igbo proverb saying that when one finger touches the oil, all the fingers are connected. But also in a camp proverb that this kind of communitarian attitude is like when you have a smell or a scent, we're like that. We can't avoid each other person smelling and stuff like that. And so this is the approach in the capitalist world. How do we negotiate? The contexts are different. This is why, again, I think about, we shouldn't just say Africa, Ubuntu is in Africa, because you go to Kenya and they do something else, say, oh, is that Ubuntu? No. You go to Zimbabwe, oh, is that Ubuntu? It's about attitude, this transformation that comes, this attitude of the mind, this kind of what I call emancipatory epistemology, to live with other people, despite the context in which you live, you find yourself. This mobile subjectivity, not the rule, because rules are different. The rules are different, but how do you become a good human being in any context you find yourself? So it becomes a pedagogic practice. Education is a pedagogic practice to learn. So pedagogic means teaching us. It's a teachable moment for us. And so just in short while. So I don't see, sorry, I didn't say much about this. Any tension at Flores. I don't see any tension between Ubuntu, if you understand it as virtue ethics, and the possibility of having a nice house of looking for money for the community or personal development and stuff like that. It is all for the good of the community. Yeah, so this just, I want to clarify this and then try to make my own very brief and short intervention. And then the question about I am because you are, of course, you're right to say that this is why we move away from I am because we are recognize only people who look like us. So, but I am because you are. We recognize even our enemies, even those we do not like. I once wrote a paper, say, go drink coffee with someone you do not like. I said, go drink coffee with someone you do not like. In a paper I wrote in Dutch, also translated into English eventually. Why did I say drink coffee with someone you do not like? Because Ubuntu teaches us to encounter. So you encounter before you judge. You judge before you and then you experience. And it comes to what I call, it offers us what I call epistemic empathy. It's not about arriving at consensus or agreement. When you practice this, when you have this attitude, you reach at what? You can reach at consensus, you can reach at disagreement, but most importantly is subjective conversion. Subjective conversion. So it doesn't say that it solves all the problem. No, it doesn't say that it solves, no, it doesn't solve all the problem. It does not. Subjective conversion, understanding, I agree to disagree, and so on and so forth. Of course, there will be limitations to this kind of thing. There will be many limitations. I am because you are you. This is a very typical Kantian challenge. Will be what I am because you. If somebody is doing something bad, will I try to imitate the person? Someone asked that question. Would I imitate somebody who is evil because I am because you are evil? No, I will not imitate you because you are evil. The question is that despite you are even, despite you are, I recognize that if despite you are evil, whatever you commit, you are still part of my humanity. You still constitute part of my humanity. I do not disqualify you because you are evil. I do not just, okay, like they do in North America or Western Europe, somebody does something, they first they say, he's irrational. They disqualify the person already. They remove the humanity. Or he's a felon. He's committed a crime. He cannot vote. He has no humanity again, blah, blah, blah. They dehumanize him, objectify him. And so once they objectify him, they mask him, he's no longer human. Ubuntu doesn't evacuate your humanity. Even if you are cruel, even if you are evil, you see, Hitler is still part of my humanity. Whether I like it or not, I recognize that. So this is the sense in which, I recognize the challenge, but it's something we have to live with.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Eze. This is, I almost, I guess at this point want to just say to folks, I know we are almost at time, but we're going to keep the Zoom open for those that are really engaged. You want to keep the conversation going, only because of just how rich this conversation is. And what a gift, right, to be able to have, Stephen and Thomas and, Michael here to share from their experiences, but also this deep wisdom from all of the work that they've been doing and are continuing to do in the world. One of the things before I bring it to you, Violeta, just for your brief winding down there, is to provide another perspective. I think it was Yasna. We had asked that question about the I am because you are. Really an invitation to recognize that when you see anger in someone, the invitation from an Ubuntu perspective here is to say, I recognize something that I'm also able to feel, right? So even though I'm not feeling it in this moment, it doesn't necessarily dehumanize that person. So in order for me to fully acknowledge my own humanity, it is actually important to acknowledge the humanity of the person that I'm in an encounter with. So Violeta, I guess you can go ahead and offer your winding down notes before we close off.
Thank you very much, Molly. And I'm still contemplating all these great comments that I've heard. And thank you, Michael. Thank you, Thomas, for taking us there. It's been a big reminder that we actually are all in the learning process. And we are invited in these modern times to learn from each other as deep as possible. Because Europe is not only about imperialism, it's not only about capitalism, it's not only about pragmatic, logical mind. We are awakening now and trying to reconnect with our old roots as well, trying to find our old wisdoms as well. And that's how actually all this story about eco-civilization and a new type of EU leadership is all about. And unfortunately, Sonia, who's been several times our guest and at this event, cannot be with us. And before I explain further what follows after this year of Ubuntu, I would like to share her message with all of us because she taped her message explaining how it came about that in Europe we felt attracted by the Ubuntu, and she put it in a management model. And in this management model, Ubuntu is one of the 5 wisdoms of the world. Besides Ubuntu, she also picked Aroha, she picked also Itikai, she picked Ep and Oikos. And that's how I actually got introduced to Ubuntu. And then we took her model into the understanding of how beings potentially need to evolve in the future. And through that, we put that in the model as one of the 5 entities. And this is her message. 2 years ago
when we met, Violeta Bulc, Bobo Semen, and myself. And together we have realized that we need a transformation from the drama triangle of the attacker, the victim, and the rescuer to a completely new quality of the dance of collaboration, love, and truth. And we knew that the basis for this new triangle is the eco-civilization, where AEIOU of leadership can shed the light to a development path of an individual, and the divine mathematics ally supports everything. And I'm really happy to see that the year of Ubuntu 2021 supported this first angel of a new triangle: collaboration, co-creation, mutual trust. And I'm really looking forward that the new initiative to celebrate the year 2022 as the year of Aroha will nurture another angel of this new triangle: love. And with this, love can become a core vibration of leadership to build a more sustainable, prosperous, and verdant world.
So thank you very much, Sonia, for this message. And I hope that we are closer to understand what we're trying to do also within eco-civilization movement. We're trying to bring together all these old wisdoms in, of course, new format that and understand how they can serve the modern challenges, and at the same time build on those wisdoms something fresh and new from scratch. As Sonia mentioned, the next year is a year of Aroha. We're working together with Maori people and New Zealanders in order to bring to the global community their philosophy. But our very humble dedication is that we try to join Ubuntu and Aroha because they are actually complementary. And once we start bringing all these vibes of different continents together, we might just start evolving as a global civilization, and maybe global civilization can address global challenges as well. So with that in mind, I'm looking forward to start the next year with the year of Aroha, and I really, really hope that we can bring people along from Africa to the sessions and constantly intertwine the messages of Ubuntu together with our Maori friends from New Zealand, and become even wiser and become even more in tune again with the natural processes and natural cycles. And of course, the laws of nature that we are all part of. We are not nature and humans. Humans are nature. And as soon as we relearn how to feel that way, there is hope for this planet as well. Molly, back to you.
Thank you very much. So honorable, and you know, what a blessing to have been here, you know, throughout this year of celebrating and learning, you know, and getting into out of our comfort zone with regards to recognizing that we are born for such a time. For those of us born out of Africa, recognizing that, you know, we have an opportunity here to stand up with deep pride, but with also deep, you know, humility to show up and support in honor of what Ubuntu truly is in the world. You know, being led by, you know, academics such as Dr. Eze, we have really lived this, but also taken enough time to get into the depths of what this can be. And what I like a lot about what it talks about is reminding us about the individualistic perspective of what Ubuntu is. In who I am, I actually define Ubuntu, right? In such a way that we are allowing for the movement and the mobility of what, you know, Ubuntu truly is for me in this moment today. It's such a time to be relevant and honoring others and in their own experience of what Ubuntu is at that time. So really deeply, I think what I'm getting from this is the deep humility. I feel it's, you know, in my spirit that we were meant to walk this journey together to, you know, continue this movement going into next year and joining Violeta and Ecocivilisation group in the conversations they're having there, but really also a calling, right? A moment of being called to action so that we can actually show up wherever we are in the world in true authenticity, showing up truly in our full presence, in our wholeness, into what it is that we can be, so that we can always live up to the answer of why we are here at such a time, and what it is that others will experience that are coming after us just because of how we have expressed Ubuntu in the world. I see that we are running out of time. So before we close off, you know, before we close off our recording here, I would like to invite everyone to get off of mute and, you know, just come on, and invitation for you to express gratitude or celebration in the way that you typically do in your own community, in your own lived experience, in your own, you know, practice. So let's just make this really a moment of, you know, gratitude and expression. And I will actually just really begin by doing it the way we do it in Zimbabwe. So everyone, you know, come off mute. Let us actually show gratitude in whatever way that you show gratitude.
And mute yourself. And mute yourself.
In a Zambian way.
Voila.
In a Zambian way.
Aloha.
That's fantastic.
The men do not do.
That's wonderful.
The women do it like this. The way the men are supposed to do it like this.
For your experience, absolutely, yes. And this is what the invitation was, to get off of mute and really feel into that gratitude. Yes. How do you express celebration?
Yes, I missed the part about 2022. It's the year of
Aroha.
Aroha.
Aroha is the love vibration. And as we are learning now more and more from physics, love is not an emotion, but it's a frequency. It's an energy that comes from the deep space, and it's the original frequency of the universe. And Maori have been really working with this, and they have it embedded in their culture. So we want to learn from them.
All right, that's amazing. We are looking forward that maybe before the year ends, we could have some sharing of of calendars, especially, as we are working together like this, so that we can do more together in 2022.
Yes,
Absolutely,
exactly.
Together
exactly,
we rise.
Yes, together we rise.